Well, this is Derek. My name's Derek Pharms. I'm a multi-instrumentalist, originally from Washington State. Although I haven't lived in the States since I was about 5 years old. Kind of lived around all around the planet, you know. Had a wide cultural background, I guess you could say. Yeah, wide cultural background. You know, started in Washington. You know, from there it was you know, to Hawaii, and then you know, off to Korea, and then to Okinawa, and yeah, just Australia is the next stop. And yeah, I've been here about 2 years. Got established musically pretty quickly. I'd say the main instrument I started on was probably the drum kit. Been doing that for a long time, about 12 years I'd say. 12 years in the drum kit, and then I have experience with multiple brass instruments. You got the French horn, trombone, baritone horn, bass trombone, forgot to mention that, tuba, and all kinds of anything that's involved with blowing or any kind of pressure control, kind of down with that. And lots of exotic hand drums, you know, you got the tabla as well, conga, djembe, you know, a lot of things. So I'd say I'm pretty comfortable all around with wind or rhythmic instruments, rhythms especially. It's always been my fascination with rhythms and how they're constructed, and all the thinking that really does go into the rhythmic phrasing and structure and the expressions within these structures, and all the times and the changes and the, you know, offs and ons and everything in between, you know. So yeah, I've studied at Uni High for 2 years just these past years. Just graduated a couple months ago. You know, studied at Uni High, solo music performance. You know, I studied the drum kit, and before that I was at a high school in Okinawa on Camp Foster. It was called Kubasaki High School, and there I did study, you know, the drum kit and the same, as well as just rhythmic theory and basic, and a lot of march snare. Did a lot of that kind of stuff, and live orchestral performances, and yeah, really discovered myself musically in Okinawa, I should say. I really started to bud out, you know. I got into bands, you know. At one point we were one of the major touring bands on the island, and it's
What did you do?
Yeah. It's okay, Naida. Sorry.
And I got into a lot of performances, a lot of bands, gigs. Kind of discovered the real beauty of being a freelance musician, and yeah, it's been a really great journey. And then I arrived here in Australia, and you know, being an instrumentalist, I'm always out. I didn't know what a didgeridoo was before I got here, by the way. It's crazy enough as that sounds, but you know, being an instrumentalist, I'm always camping out for new kinds of instruments. I'm always on the lookout, especially anything rhythmic, anything rhythmically complex. I'm always into. And it's just been, you know, one hell of a journey. And I remember the first time I saw didgeridoo, it was my dad and I, and we saw this busker, and we both had this look on our faces. We were like, and it's like, is he blown into a tree? Because it was nice shape, but it had a bit of wood on the end. And we're like, yeah, that's a tree, I think. He's blown into a log. Listen to that sound. We just stood there for about 12 minutes, you know, just listening to the sound, and just the sounds this guy was making was amazing. And I remember. We had to pick up souvenirs for family and friends, and we went to the Queen Victoria Market and said, oh, let's get our hands on a didgeridoo. Oh, all right. So I remember walking around, and bumped into a guy who was selling a couple of them. He's like, oh, can I help you? I was like, yeah, I'm after one of those things, those trees. And he's like, oh, didgeridoo. I was like, yeah, you can get one of those. So he started showing me through them, and started playing. And I was like, oh, that sound. Same sound as the busker, you know? Same kind of sound. I was like, how you do that? And he's like, oh, just, you know? And I came out with sounded kind of like a dying elephant. My first sound, it was pretty bad. But yeah, you know, took it home, practiced, and in about a week I was getting the kind of cliche, you know, didgeridoo, kind of high swirling harmonic drone to it and all that kind of stuff. And I just kind of progressed on from there and just did my own thing didgeridoo-wise. Just kind of integrated it, you know, started playing drones while I played a lot of, I'm quite experienced with tabla, so I played a lot of rhythms with tabla. I messed around with the didge, just kind of drones over, and I would tune the drums to the, you know, to my core fundamental note I'd be working with, and yeah, just play around with that as background. And then I started thinking, oh, maybe I could tongue this like a brass instrument. Get a lot of the tonguing on the ta and the ka and and all that kind of stuff. You know, get some kind of a rhythm going where I could kind of set it up so I could have a polyrhythmic structure. I could have the tabla, one set of rhythmic phrasing, and then I could have, you know, the didgeridoo over the top and a whole offset. You could have 3/2, 5/8, you know, just all kinds of crazy phrasings like that. And really got into the rhythm that this instrument can produce. And I remember stumbling onto a friend of mine's channel, put a couple of good, it's you, Wong, so put a couple of good videos up, and I stumbled onto one that was entitled Didgeridoo. I think it was Larry sitting on the beach playing a nice big red yidaki, you know, and I was like, oh, never heard those kind of sounds out of the instrument before. And, you know, before this I'd seen loads of players. You know, I saw guys, I saw Gang of Giddy, I saw Mark Atkins, I'd seen Bruce Rogers twice before that. You know, just a couple of big guys in the performance scene, and then of course the guy that I started working with when I did end up eventually working at the Victoria Market was named Nanuda. He's quite a notorious, we call him Black Elvis, but quite a notorious character, you know, around the scene. He's not hard to miss, especially his nice playing style. But yeah, just kind of copied them. Never really asked them for advice on playing, or, you know, I was always too shy when it came to asking professional musicians about advice. But I never really asked them about how they put together rhythms, how they construct things rhythmically, or sometimes what I saw a lot of players do was break down a melody and take the rhythmic structure of a melody and reproduce it and actually get the same effect that a melody can produce. I found it's really cool stuff, but I never really approached and asked them about it, and just kind of copied, mimicked, did my own thing. I was a Mark Atkins junkie. I was crazy about Mark Atkins, just all that fast kind of stuff. But yeah, eventually stumbled onto iDidge and saw a lot of videos on there, and I was like, well, this is some pretty funky stuff. And a lot of videos kept coming up with the same not the same rhythmic structure, but the same set of tonguing techniques that I just couldn't get my finger on. You know, all the all that kind of stuff. The weird tonguing that's similar to a Western brass instrument, but different at the same time. You know, I see a lot of European influence in the tonguing when you play these kinds of instruments. A lot of tas, kas. It's a lot of forward mouth dominant tonguing, and a lot of rear throat, back of the tongue kind of stuff. But nothing quite as interesting as some of the retroflex positions that the tongue really has to go into, and the language barrier that comes up between, you know, a new budding didgeridoo player and achieving what he wants to get out of the didgeridoo when it comes to, you know, that kind of stuff. So really has been, you know, a great journey with this instrument. And after discovering these videos, I immediately, you know, grabbed a couple of my instruments and tried mimicking, and of course I couldn't because I hadn't had the proper training, hadn't had the practice, had no idea of the control, the pressure application, whether or not there was a passive voice beneath all the noise, and all kinds of things, you know. And yeah, I just sat there and watched. And I remember being on a site one day. I forget the site. I think the sound clips were taken off the site for whatever reason. I think maybe Dory told me she was probably one of the ones particular, but sound clips were taken off, but it was from Milke's CD, and am I allowed to say his name? It's alright. Yeah, it's a couple clips in there, you know, just going through the most basic, you know, tongues, you know, all the and then all the little back and forth tonguings, and I was like, okay, so I sat there and I mimicked exactly what I heard. I remember being in the shower and I had the laptop going, and then I was doing it, and my tongue did this movement, and it felt strange, and I got it. It produced this back and forward motion, you know, the duh and then the back up, like that, and really started working at that, and got a hold of some of the other movements, and yeah, I slid into what I guess is called